So everyone, if you haven't already, introduce yourself in the chat. And if you want to share like your practice area, if you want to turn your video on, that's cool too. Doesn't have to just be me and Moshe. And I know Mark is going to join us soon.
Yeah, and so for those of you who don't use Zoom regularly, this is not a Zoom webinar, it's a Zoom call. So everybody is a regular active participant. So you can see other people, they can see you. We did that because with this whole social isolation thing, we wanted to give you an opportunity to have a place where we can see each other and interact with each other. Our intention for today's call is to just be very casual and talk about, you know, what issues you're facing, specifically when we wanted to focus on, or Maddy wanted to focus on, the issues that you might have with cash flow. If you're, you know, you're not getting payments in now, where you don't have new clients coming in, you don't have revenue coming in, and then how do you handle your overhead as this is going on? So looking forward to this discussion. But again, just make sure that you mute yourself if you're not talking. But if you do want to pipe in and join the conversation, ask a question or give feedback, just unmute yourself. Or put in the chat, say, hey, I want to add something, and then we'll prompt you to unmute yourself, so it's not a complete free-for-all.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been coming up a lot is just like, if you're running a small business as a law firm, you know, what are the requirements if you're under, you know, 25, 50 employees? There's been a lot of concern around being able to afford, you know, sort of the requirements for employers right now. And then also, what can your staff do from home? What are sort of remote tools to do from home that are affordable for your staff? I mean, if you don't have Slack yet and ways to collaborate asynchronously, you know, not having to get on a phone call, that's something that we're seeing. A lot of these companies are offering free services when they typically are not, or upgraded free services. So if you haven't seen it already, I'll put it in the chat. It's called openforbusiness.org. And that is a great resource for people who need software. If you don't currently use like software to share or collaborate, that's been a really good resource that we've been seeing for people to get up and running quickly. And then obviously making sure that you have time tracking in place for your team. If they normally do that in the office, Harvest time tracker and things like that are really good. If that's a requirement. You can also, you know, with these chat apps, often have the little green light that's on, hey Mark, when you're working, so that you know that, you know, if you need to reach someone and they're supposed to be working, if they are not online, it's pretty clear, you know, that they're busy with other things. And, you know, if they're busy with childcare, obviously that's something to accommodate right now. But if they are saying that they're working and you want to make sure that people are accountable, we find, because we run completely virtually all the time, that being able to access people on Slack or on other chat apps, Skype if you're using it, it can be very effective to make sure that you're able to have conversations with people during working hours, even if you're in different locations. So what questions does everyone have about, you know, ways to cut budget that are not going to have, you know, a long-term impact? Feel free to sort of chime in. You can even take yourself off mute if you want to chat. Questions that you're facing, you know, at your firms. I know we have people from Georgia, New York. New York yesterday just said that, you know, basically shelter-in-place rules are in effect. Businesses have to close. So we're seeing obviously all the liquor stores closing. New York State apparently doesn't want to get down with that. So we're expecting everyone from Pennsylvania to come into New York and buy alcohol. Great. And, you know, obviously there are some legal implications probably there that someone's going to capitalize on.
Yeah, we actually have a randomly one of the microbreweries is taking their trucks and turned them into like ice cream machines with beer. So they have an app you can follow to see what area they're in, and they've like turned they're playing like Led Zeppelin or something as they go through the neighborhoods, and you can come out and buy
the circus music.
You can come out and buy 6-packs of their beer. It's kind of funny. So yeah.
Wow.
Creativity,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely creative. I mean, I think that, you know, there's definitely going to be people who are accessing that small business loan as a provision. I think there's a big concern for like business lawyers that I've been hearing around, you know, where they're sort of reviewing contracts on force majeure, and if that's in effect here. I think there's been a lot of there's not really consensus as far as I've been talking to our attorneys. So if people have thoughts on that, I'd really be interested to know where you're advising, you know, not as legal advice, but as your expertise, if you're commonly seeing that that is applicable, or if it's not. Because I think for B2B clients, you know, that's one thing, is a thought leadership piece right now that could be really good to make sure that you're sort of standing out in front there. So if anyone has thoughts on that, I'd be really interested to know, because I've been getting different guidance.
And again, like, feel free to be on video and take yourself off mute. We wanted this to be more of a conversation, not a presentation. So I find in times like this, getting kind of mastermind type of groups of people and just sharing what you're thinking. I'm a business owner, so I learn from a lot of these things as much as everybody, as I think, you know, in fact, if not more than I teach. So, you know, I'm actually interested in that answer, Maddie. I mean, you know, personally, I reached out to my landlord and just said, hey, don't know what the next 3 months holds. Seems okay now, but can you cut us a deal on rent? And then we'll make it up the rest of the year. And they ended up cutting our rent in half for 3 months. And then we're just going to add a quarter on for 6 more months after that. So it doesn't hurt to ask, right? For any of these type of things.
Yeah, and I would ask any service provider, any sort of business that you work with on a regular basis. I mean, outside of, you know, at checkout asking for a discount on your groceries, I would say like a lot of businesses are willing to make deals right now, especially on purchases that they were expecting to offer you. There's kind of like the existing relationships and then the new potential purchases. So like one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of conferences delayed, for example. Like, you know, Mark and I go to a ton of conferences, and, you know, discounts abound for negotiating whatever the new thing is going to be in October that we're anticipating. But if you have, agreements for your office rent, even regular services that you're getting, the only thing that's probably not so negotiable right now is your internet, because obviously that's going to be high in demand. So yeah, Moshe, do you have any thoughts around, you know, sort of business finances and things you can cut so that we conserve and protect sort of those long-term assets, like, you know, I mean, not assets, but even employees, and sort of are able to cut the things that are easier to recoup and, you know, bring back when we need them?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, before I answer the question, just so everybody knows, this is now streaming live on the Profit with Law business page. I tagged Smith AI, I tagged GNGF in that post. Feel free to share that out. Anybody who is, you know, you're connected with other attorneys, and this would be helpful for them. That being said, I think that it's very important to take a step back and not do knee-jerk reaction actions. And what I'm referring to is really get an idea of what are your immediate personal needs from a cash flow perspective, and then on a personal side, and then on the business side, what are your immediate business needs from a cash flow perspective, and really analyze that and look at what the real picture looks like before aggressively taking action. Now, I think that you need to be swift and not hesitate, because the longer that you wait, the bigger the hole can be. So I'm not telling you move slow. What I am telling you is don't take action until you actually have a plan of what that action is going to be. So the first thing is to really know your numbers and know where you're at. The next thing is looking at your business's overhead and the cash flow that's coming in. You have to then look at, okay, what are the big nuts? What are the big pieces? Mark already mentioned one of them, which is your rent, where you can potentially negotiate something with the landlord. Or maybe you're at the end of a lease and you need to determine whether you want to continue in the office. You were planning to go virtual anyway, so maybe you expedite that process and just end it. But you want to definitely look at what you can do there. The next biggest expense that you have is your payroll. And I think that is really the biggest focus of everybody's concern is, what do I do with my staff? I have to now pay payroll to people who maybe are not productive or maybe are less productive, or even if they're being fully productive from where they are, if the money is not coming in, how do I sustain paying them? So for staff, I think it's important to do an exercise with yourself to first determine if you intend to keep those staff members. So long term, is this person somebody who I think is a rock star employee, and therefore I would go to bat to them, you know, and really do everything I can to keep them on board? Or is this somebody who I was about to begin with? And if that's the case, then why are you going to make yourself crazy to try to keep them around? Let them go now, and the marketplace will be full of highly talented people when this is over, because there's plenty of people who are losing their jobs right now. So being able to find somebody and onboard somebody who's going to be a better employee when this is over is going to be a better option for you. So the first thing is not looking at the expense of each one, but the value that they bring to you before you even go through any financial calculation. Once you've go ahead, Maddy.
No, I was just going to say, like, you have to be careful just on that point, though, if you're letting them go based on performance or letting them go based on finance primarily, just for unemployment, you know, reasons and your responsibility, you know, as an employer there. So I would be clear what the primary reason is, and that you convey that to the employee, because that has implications for sort of what they do next.
Yeah, I think that I want to just establish a disclaimer here. I'm not an attorney. Maddy's not an attorney. Mark's not an attorney. So I'm coming at this from a financial perspective.
Right.
Mark's coming at this from a financial perspective as a business owner, and from a marketing perspective of ongoing, you know, getting your firm to continue. Maddy is very much engaged in the same way. So the first thing you have to do is you have to consult with your employment law attorney if that's not your specialty, and make sure that you're doing this on the up and up, and what you're doing is okay. So, but you have to, from a business perspective, you have to decide what you want to do, and then go and make sure that your compliance is okay. So I don't want to in any way tell you what has to or not has to be done. As a matter of fact, in some states, it's probably better not to give a reason at all, and to just let them go without a reason. So definitely consult with your legal counsel and make sure that you're doing it in the way that's going to protect you the most, without jeopardizing your position in your firm. But again, this is about making sure that you're making decisions that are best for your business. And if this employee is not somebody who is worth keeping, then now is the right time to say, okay, we're going to find a way to let this person go. If somebody is worth keeping, that's where the challenge comes in. And there's all kinds of questions around that. Do I go into debt to keep this person here? Do I use my cash reserves to keep this person here? How do I prioritize where that person's payroll sits?
Yeah, are you foregoing your own salary? I mean, there are a lot of things that we see, you know, some people doing, and, you know, if the owner or the ownership team is sort of like, you know, foregoing their own salary in order to pay others, you know, we see things like that. I mean, that obviously requires you to be able to do that yourself, you know. So really have to sort of put down, if you don't already have it very clearly, all of your sort of fixed costs and your variable costs, so that you can see, you know, what are the short and long-term impacts of making changes to those things, if you even can make changes. Because things like, you know, an employee who's really valuable are extremely hard to replace and recover from if you have to let them go. You know, there are sort of like, you know, furlough and, you know, temporary part-time unemployment options that the government will help support, right? But if you are letting someone go, and you're not able to pay for them at this time, there are also potentially opportunities. And I was talking to Jane Weir about this by email today. And because a lot of folks have been contacting us about, just sharing their advice for our other small businesses. And, one of the things that came up is it possible if you already have like maybe it's more than a non-compete, but also a clause in your employment terms where they can't make money from any other job, this may be a time to sort of revise policies and agreements there to allow them to make money if you're not able to, staff them full time. And you can have networks to connect them to other firms or employers where they could have short-term relief with another revenue or income source.
Yeah, I want to real quick, Cheryl, you had raised your hand. I don't know if you want to come off mute if you had a question or a comment or something, or if you just mistakenly raised your hand.
Can
Hey,
you hear
Cheryl.
me?
Yeah,
Hey.
how you doing?
So, hi everybody, I'm Cheryl David. I'm an estate planning attorney in North Carolina, and we went virtual on Tuesday. So Mark Homer is our marketing and advertising company, GNGF, and I can't say enough because they've got all of these ads running that are create your estate plan from home. And so we actually had business last week. I mean, people are very scared, and those who procrastinated are finally doing their work. However, we still have to, in North Carolina, until maybe tonight, witness in person and notarize in person. So we've been doing a drive-by. But with regard to protecting the money, here is what I've taken some courses and I've done some things. We called our banker, and the money will be available on Monday, where they are giving loans. They're holding off on requiring you to make credit card payments, no interest. If you've got a line of credit with the bank, it's important to take that line of credit, but you should not keep it with the bank, according to other courses we've taken. And my banker in 2008, when there was the recession, they actually, if you accessed your line of credit, you put it in an account with that bank, they pulled it back. So it's important when you ask for that money, and we don't intend on using it, to go to a separate bank. I then stayed on the phone for 30 minutes trying to talk to American Express, because we put everything through American Express in our business, and they also deferred the whole bill. So these are things that, you might want to jump on this weekend. We are doing exactly what you said. We're going through all of our bills. We're looking at American Express. We're reducing or asking for deferrals on anything that we can, because we believe the most important thing is keeping payroll up and going. We've got a pretty large team. Hopefully with Mark Homer, with your help, we'll be able to keep the office going. And hopefully if the governor allows notarization and witnessing starting tonight remote, we'll be able to keep the practice open. We still have a lot of probate work, and I think that's all I have to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Really the message here is nothing is off the table. So you got to look at every single one. Here in New York State, Governor Cuomo passed a mandate to mortgage companies that they have to forego the next 3 months of your mortgage payments and add it to the back of your loan. Right. If you call them and tell them you're under financial hardship. So that's a big deal. Like for me, I don't know what they're going to do about the tax portion of that mortgage payment, but my payment's $3,500 a month. So that's $10,000 that if I get that deferment, I now have $10,000 I don't have to come up with in the next 90 days, and it'll be. You can infuse
that in your business, right?
Right, exactly. So I don't have to pull that out of my business today to pay my mortgage payment. The other thing is that even if you can't work with these companies, understand that it's just money when it comes to credit card payments, all of these bank payments. Nothing's going to happen if you're late on your payment today, right? Yes, it'll affect your credit. You worry about that. You clean it up. That can happen. But nobody's seizing your house. Nobody is coming after you for one missed payment. So you definitely have some payments that you have to make that can be deferred, even if they're not okay deferring it, even if they're not willing to work with you. You could just not pay the bill and pay it eventually. So there are even extreme measures like that where you don't need to, that you have to identify what are the things that I actually have to pay, like to you know, I have to do grocery shopping, so I need to go and buy the food, but I don't necessarily have to pay my mortgage payment. If it's a month late, it's just going to be a ding on my credit. It's not going to do anything. They're not coming after my house after 1 month of a late payment. So that's something that I think is important to also recognize is that, you know, the main thing is we're healthy, we're staying at home, we're keeping our family safe, and the money is kind of the next step after that.
Yeah, I think on that note, I mean, we in Duke Energy, which covers a wide amount of states, so you probably a number of people on this call could have them. They came out and said they're not shutting any power off if you miss a payment or two over the next few months. So it seems like a lot of people are coming out. I know, like, I think our waterworks just came out with the same kind of message.
Yeah, Geico announced they're not canceling any policies.
Yeah, of course, our internet provider did not come out and say that, to Maddy's point, because they're probably under the gun right now. I feel really stress testing the networks right now these days. The other thing is, so I'm part of this group called Entrepreneur Organization, and in Cincinnati, like I kind of work a lot with the chapter here, but it's a global organization. So we have a Slack channel that we've been following, but hearing from people from China and Japan and stuff that are kind of on the other side of this right now has been very interesting. So been asking, like, what was it like? What did you guys do? It was a lot of kind of like what Cheryl was talking about. It was people that got, through the best were quickly pivoted the way they went about providing services. And so obviously a lot of, online stuff, and they're finding that after people are coming out, a lot of people aren't moving away from a lot of these online services, right? So they're kind of, staying that way. Oh, there's my dog coming in. But they're like, the move to online, people aren't really knee-jerking back to like going to retail and everything again. So this could be an interesting time to kind of like pivot, incorporate some things, like run some ads. I think state planning, to Cheryl's point, I mean, for the first time, there's a whole bunch of people that like have this concept of mortality that we've never had before, right? We've always been superheroes in America. We, never get hurt. It's like, you live till you're 100. But now, like, these things like, like, oh, somebody sneezes and there's a chance to die, like for the first time in a long time, that's on people's minds now. So that is a, good opportunity to kind of say, hey, make sure you got stuff in order, and that estate planning. Elder law, I mean, I don't know, Cheryl, I mean, what you guys are doing with hopefully after tonight, because you can't even get into nursing homes if you need signatures and stuff. I mean, that's got to be a mess. What are other people doing in terms of any ideas on either pivoting or adjusting the kind of practice to react to maybe kind of like the current normal? Anybody, you can raise a hand or just unmute and start talking.
All right, we got some hand raises. So let's go to, is it Daler or Delaire? I'm going to unmute you. Or maybe you didn't have your hand raised. I'm trying to read the screen here. I'm gonna mute you back. Let's go to Cheryl.
I already spoke, Mark. I mean,
okay.
All
right. Melissa Pierce.
Hey, you guys. So the biggest thing I've been doing to pivot right now with my family law practice is doing virtual sessions with clients because they don't want to come in and meet at the office. But also, there's a lot of concern over parenting time orders. So holding a 30-minute, special rate to just get advice about what their parenting time orders, even if I didn't draft those parenting time orders, to just interpret them, let them know what the state Supreme Court is saying and what to do right now. In fact, I just fielded a question this morning from a client about what do I do if they put us under lockdown like it's happening in California and New York? What then with my parenting time?
Yeah, and what about supervised parenting time? So how would something like that be handled, Melissa?
I haven't heard what they're doing with supervised parenting time. There is the opportunity right now to take it out of like a public supervised area and then, do a temporary order that allows it to go with maybe a family member.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of work right now that family lawyers can do to help modify temporary orders because the courts are still open. They're just limited.
Okay,
We can still get stipulated orders entered with the court.
okay,
But I like the idea of, and what was interesting there was it wasn't like just, hey, working with, but it's like, here's a 30-minute kind of fixed rate. Let me just help you with this concept, you know, publicizing out there, like, you know, what questions you have for this much money for 30 minutes. I'm here to answer stuff. Like those are good opportunities to reach out to people. And even if you have like in an email list, kind of letting people know that that's an option, right? Those are great ways to, you know, to rally around your current clients that already know and like and trust you, and say, hey, share this with people that you hear having concerns.
yeah, I
So
think
that
that's also a really important point, Mark, that like now is a time to also set a new standard for how you can work and access with your clients, right? So if there is an opportunity to spin up, you know, your Skype calls, and maybe if you've been looking at your consultations and people valuing your time via video, if traditionally your clients are used to working with you in person, that you use this as an opportunity to transition that in-person value to video value. And like we often see that people are reluctant to charge for consultations, but if you're flat rating these sessions, that may be a bridge to then in the future when things sort of resume to the normal day-to-day, they're used to paying for access to you virtually or over video, and that becomes sort of a new opportunity to gain revenue in those ways. And you maybe also build your comfort value and your firm's comfort value in charging for time virtually.
Yeah, and I think that there's two ways to solve a cash flow problem. One is to bring in cash, and the other is to cut expenses, right? So we started off talking about cutting expenses, but now we've shifted the conversation to bringing in cash. And I think that what's important is that you figure out how to set yourself up to be able to collect payments remotely, to be able to invoice clients remotely, and to make that happen, but also to look for opportunities. I mean, look at Melissa and look at Cheryl, who are pivoting their offer to address a current concern. So estate planning attorneys, take note. There are people who are sitting at home worried, what's going to happen to me if I die and I didn't take care of this? Use that as your message. Go out there and offer a paid consultation for a flat fee. That this way you're not spending a ton of time talking to people and potentially not getting somewhere with it. You then take the paid consultation and apply it to their, if they end up retaining you, you apply it to their overall bill. So it makes it even more of a reason for them to move forward with you. But your message goes out there and it says, look, if you're sitting at home wondering, what do I do now? I didn't get my estate plan in order, and you know, and what if I get COVID-19? Get on the phone with me. It's $100 for a consultation, or $200, whatever price you want to charge. And I'm doing consultations remotely. We can talk from your home through video conference. You know, book now, and just start hitting that message out there. Bankruptcy attorneys. People are not at the stage of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be bankrupt. You see that tide coming, but what can you do today? Sell consultations to avoid bankruptcy. Go out there and say, hey, for $100, I'll get on the phone with you and we'll have a 30-minute strategy session of how you can avoid bankruptcy because you're hurting right now. And people are going to love that. You're going to give them great information of what they can and can't do that's going to help them to be in a better position, and do that for them. Business attorneys, go out there and offer a consultation to help people with their cash flow, the exact thing we're talking about. Just take them through an exercise to figure out what they can and can't do and how they can better position themselves. There's opportunities to take with the current situation to offer these quick hits, the quick one-off calls to help people and to also charge for your services. I'm not saying go out there and do it for free. We're doing this free 10-day live stream thing that we're, you know, and for those of you who don't know about it, Profit with Law, in conjunction with a ton of the experts out there, we're doing a daily live stream starting on Monday for 2 weeks. You can sign up for it at profitwithlaw.com/COVID. And I'll put that in the comments in a moment. But we're doing that for free. But at the same time, we're offering, during that promotion, we're going to be offering something, the paid product that's going to help people right now in the current situation. And don't be afraid to charge just because people are in this situation. You charge for your services, you charge for the value that you're providing, but figure out a way to do it where you're not asking somebody for a huge commitment up front. You're asking for that initial phone call. and you're charging for that initial phone call, and that opens the door. You'll be able to filter who's ready to do something today. Don't assume that because everybody is losing their job or doesn't have money coming in, that people don't have money. It's not the case. There's plenty of people out there who can afford to use you for what they need today if they see the value.
I don't know if Stephen Hamilton is willing to come on, but I see that you posted something about the SBA loan. If you're willing to speak for a minute about that, you shared a lot of information that I think will be relevant here.
You're talking to me or Stephen?
Stephen.
Stephen.
So if he doesn't come on, I can speak to it.
Okay.
I can.
Just
then,
about the draft bill in the Senate.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, there he
Hey,
is.
Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen.
Hey, so this is one of the areas that we're working on with our financial advisors. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to think the world's ending. So I'm actually sitting outside in Lubbock, Texas, working on my brisket.
Nice.
So there are three issues that have passed so far. One is the factor of if you let somebody go, and everybody's talking about that because of the new bill that moves the FMLA under 50 that will affect most of the small businesses, or if somebody decides they're going to go home to work. So just if you haven't seen that, make sure you pay attention to that and you talk to your employment people, or I'm talking to my accountant, because trying to let somebody go at this point in time, that bill takes effect on 4/2, 15 days after the president signed it. So that may substantially affect what you can and can't do, or that you have to pay them even though you let them go. The new bill that we're tracking, this CARES Act, it's $300 billion in the proposal, $300 million in the proposal right now, which is not a ton of money for every business in the country, but it is something, as I posted on there, it would allow us to cover payroll, rent, and debt. It also potentially, if it's passed the way it's reading right now, would move into areas that would let us defer those payments as a longer term. So I just wanted people to be aware of that, start looking at it, see if it works for you. The other thing I will say is, and this, I'm really enjoying this, is I'm a believer that this too shall pass. We all are, right? So look for the opportunities that's going to come after this. We just had a huge, I do criminal law, that's all I do, and a huge plea lawyer firm in Texas that let go a ton of their lawyers. And so we're already starting to figure out, how do we market that to people? Is this really the person or the entity that you want representing you when the chips are down? As soon as the chips are down, they're just going to throw it in and run away. I think there's opportunity in the future for those of us that are fighting through the battle in this thing. And even in criminal law, we are doing all of our consults now are from telephone. We've been that way for probably a year and a half, 2 years, and our close rate is still significantly close to an in-person one. So what I'm really hoping is that this will turn out beneficial for us in the future of being able to work remotely and do other things, and not be stuck in this attitude of we have to be in the office or we have to have the support people. But anyway, take a look at that bill, and if I find any more information from the accountant as it gets through, I'll pass it along.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks,
Yeah, one
Stephen.
thing that I'll note there is that if you have, and this is something that we're seeing, like if you have a support staff or a paralegal and you basically took your office phone and you're just sending it to them, or it's on blast or sequencing to both you and them, one of the issues is that they probably have childcare and they have other things that are happening and they're dealing with paperwork and work for you themselves. So we can, at Smith, just so that you guys know, we do accept collect calls from jail. We can pass those to you. We can also be your backup, or we can be on the front side. So like if you give us the sort of cell phone numbers or even extensions for your office, we can route calls to them. We can also, if you or your paralegal can't answer the phone because there's so much else that's going on in life right now, we can be your backup so that you don't have that person reach voicemail and not know, like, are you in business? So a couple things there also. Make sure that your voicemail is up to date and that you have sent out a message to your clients that you are still operating and answering the phone, and this is maybe an effect of your response times. They may be a little bit longer, but that you'll get to them. But I think it's important to know like what your plans are. Even though we're getting inundated by emails from every business, it's still important that you do send that message out. One thing that Conrad, who Mark and I know at Mockingbird Marketing, is doing is he's put a banner on all of the websites that they manage that says, you know, yes, we're still operating and, you know, accepting clients if that's the case, just to sort of flag that they're aware of the situation. This is how they're handling it. And it could link to a blog post or an article. But you want to make sure that you're pretty forward with your message there and not just waiting for people to reach out and ask you that question.
And I want to go back to, oh, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
So there was somebody that chatted me individually. So I asked if they'd come online. So Morris, if you can unmute, if you're still on.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, you can come on video if you want to. I know you're not afraid of a camera. But so Morris, you mentioned, so you're running Facebook ads and stuff, right? And
yeah, we're doing
still getting some stuff.
We finished when I left the office yesterday. We've kind of made the decision as who's ever comfortable coming in. We kind of close the office to the public. So my two paralegals and I are still working full bore. We left yesterday about 5:30, and all three of us looked at each other and said, "I think this is one of the busiest weeks we've ever had." So you know what we found is that a lot of people are at home now, obviously, and so we're getting calls from clients, you know, that hadn't been calling about their case. So that's certainly, you know, something that's going on. But I think there are a lot of people online looking for things. And I think you've already brought up some of these issues from 3M. To the estate planning, but mine was we're working on trying to get in these 3M earplug cases because I do personal injury work. We got 3 new cases in yesterday. And I think because of our ads are out there and now people are home and either they've just seen them or they've recently seen them and now they're willing to get the time to take action. And got in a new car wreck case yesterday offline. And so I think it's out there if you'll be creative about it. One other thing that I thought about that I've reached out to some people to do, I think this is a time that I think probably everybody sitting on this call is in the same boat, is that you care about your community and you want to give back, and we all try to give back in different ways. And I think this is a time to try to think of ways that you can creatively do that, certainly safely for you and your staff. But I've reached out to some friends of mine who are local radio guys here in town. I don't know if this is going to be able to happen or not, but about us giving some kind of gift card to nurses and medical staff every week and having people be nominated about that and do. So I'm trying to find ways to give back and do to recognize people who are on the front lines of this. And I would encourage you to do that. I've seen some other lawyers that I'm friends with on social that are doing that just on their own social platform. I was going to try to step it up a notch and get somebody who's got a little more social prowess than I do and connect with somebody in the local media to do that. But I would encourage you guys to take it. I know we're all kind of worried about our own individual, you know, firms, and we should be, but I think this is a time, as somebody else was saying a while ago, to think about the future. But I think you can build a lot of goodwill and do what we all should be doing, which is taking care of our community, which is what we as people that are lawyers on this call are supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think in terms of domestic violence, there's also something that we have. I'm getting a little bit of feedback right now. I don't know, Morris, if you're able to mute yourself briefly, but oh, thanks. So one of the things that we saw is that there could be a huge potential in an increase in domestic violence when people are sort of, you know, at home for longer periods of time and trapped with someone who that may happen with occasionally. So that is, you know, potentially an area where there's some education that could be shared by people who are related to that area of law. And that could be another donation opportunity to, I don't know what shelters are doing, or sort of homes that protect, you know, people escaping domestic violence. But nurses are obviously an affected population, but you know, community services workers like those and organizations are also in need right now.
Mike, you mentioned on Mike Whalen mentioned in the chat about Profit First, and I know Moshe is a big fan of Profit First. I personally utilize Profit First in my agency in terms of the methodology. So definitely, thumbs up on the Profit First book or the follow-on things. In fact, there's a new book, I guess newer, that he has out. The same person who wrote Profit First, which is Michael Michalowicz. I always get that.
Mike Michalowicz.
Mike Michalowicz.
And then there's Profit First for lawyers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but he has one called Clockwork, which is really interesting too. So very good opportunity to look at kind of like who is, like kind of what, like the critical path role and what they do, and are there things that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing, and pulling those off, and whether that's opportunities for virtual assistants and outsourcing, tools and technology. Like if you have a little extra time now and you're, like thinking, sounds like Morris doesn't and Cheryl doesn't because they're actually busy right now, which is awesome to hear. But if you do have some extra time, or maybe taking the opportunity to, if you cut down 45 minutes each way in your commute and you can put some time into stuff, like these are really good things to think about. I know Kristen was on with us on the Lawyerist LabCon recently, and talking about the opportunity for, utilizing contract lawyers and getting that set up for things, and more than just business you have right now, but also content creation and other things they can do, which is really interesting.
Or you may even put yourself on that platform if you need some extra income, because there are people whose firms are really busy that may need an extra hand, and people who are already equipped to do virtual work who are on these platforms like Law Clerk, like Lawyer Exchange. Those are great opportunities to get plugged into those and start building your profile right now, to get those reviews and become a trusted sort of provider if you want another income stream.
And then I don't want to speak for Mike Whalen, but I know he's done this before, so I'll let him put it in the chat. But for me, for GNGF, we have a book called Online Law Practice Strategies, and it really kind of goes, it's all the stuff we typically do for clients probably over the course of our first year, put down into how to, and we're offering that for free to kind of pretty much anybody who asks right now. So it's gngf.com/free-book. And I didn't put COVID over coffee in the drop-down list, so just put other and say you were here on Saturday with us. But gngf.com/free-book, and we'll get that out to you. I'm actually going to the office because I think we're going to be shut down in Ohio soon, to be able to like leave our house kind of thing. So I'm going to the office today to get a bunch of books and all the equipment to be able to ship all that stuff out, so my team doesn't have to deal with that this week.
Yeah, and I just put 2 links to 2 episodes of my podcast where I discuss Profit First. So if you want to get a pretty quick, down and dirty explanation of what it is and why it works, just go listen to those 2 episodes of the podcast. Those links are in the chat, profitwithlaw.com/016 and 018. I want to go back to, if it's okay, I want to go back to the conversation about an SBA loan. I don't think we actually addressed it. There is a disaster loan available from the SBA, and this is really important because if you're carrying any debt in your business, or if you're going to have any sort of cash crunch issue, this is probably the best access that you're going to have to money. It's a 30-year loan, and it's at 3.25%. And basically, the eligibility requirements are much lower than a typical SBA loan. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take them to turn around and process it because it's the SBA. So who knows? But you have to first go to the website and basically check if you're in a disaster area. So I'm actually going to share my screen real quick and just show you what that looks like so that you can see. So when you go to this link, disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA, the first thing you do is check if you're eligible, then you apply, and then you can check your application status. So if you go to eligible disaster areas, now my county, Rockland County, New York, just became eligible yesterday. So they're a little bit behind the 8 ball with, and I'm in like one of the biggest hot zones. So you can just put in your state and filter that way instead of doing your county. You could also put your county in. And what this does is it'll bring up all the disasters that are approved. So you want to look for the COVID-19 ones, and this is increasing every time I come here. So yesterday we only had New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Now I've got Pennsylvania, Vermont. These are coming up because there are neighboring counties to the state that are eligible disaster areas. So you want to go into each of these to see if your state is listed. So for me, I go into New York, and essentially they cover the entire New York state. So When I go in here, you can see the disaster number, which you'll need during your application process. And then you can see all the counties. And then you can also see the contiguous counties that are connected that are also included in that disaster. So even if your state's not listed, look for your county because it might be included in another disaster. And that's basically what you do. And then just go through the application process. Like any SBA loan, there's a bunch of paperwork you have to supply, including permission for them to access your tax return, stuff like that. But the sooner you get the application in, the sooner you are in line and queue to get that loan process. So I would definitely do that today. Even if you don't need it right now, you can always back out of it before that loan closes. So it's definitely something, and you could use it to pay off other debt in that the company has. So if you have revolving debt on credit cards, things like that, where you might not be able to make those payments, or 3.25% is much better than 20%. Take advantage of this opportunity now to kind of push all that into a 30-year loan that will be much easier to manage.
So speaking of, sort of distributing payments and debt out, also for clients, we're seeing a lot of payment plans put in place, fixed cost services that were not fixed costs before. I think there's a lot of sort of fear around putting fixed costs on things, but, with a state, that's an area where we're seeing a lot of growth for fixed cost services there. And this could be the time where you sort of opportunistically take advantage of trying to flat rate some services. But also with payment plans, there are services like Affirm that allow you to plug into their software, and they sort of handle all of the back end work related to setting up that structure of payments. And that can be a great service to use right now if you don't want to handle all of that stuff yourself, and obviously handle sort of those payment reminders. They'll help you with that. So being able to accept new clients who may not have all the cash that they need typically on hand to get started with you, that can be a great solution to, sort of meet them where they are.
So Mike Whelan asked, are those loans good for freelancer solos or just for people with staff? An SBA loan, disaster loans available to any business owner. My assumption is that they're going to base it on your revenue volume as far as the size of the loan you're eligible for. But I'm not sure exactly how the needs basis is assessed on the back end. But even if you're solo, you're still a business, you're still affected, you're eligible to apply for that loan.
So Moshe,
Bedlam. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, actually, well, yeah, that was supposed to go. Morris asked me for the link, and I put it in there. I forgot to switch it. So anybody can go though. I guess it's not just for Morris. I'll talk about that in a second. But the SBA stuff, Moshe, I was on a webinar yesterday with somebody who, like, this is what their life is. They basically help broker SBA deals, SBA loans and stuff. So
you'll have to connect me because we're doing a Cash Crunch live stream, and I need more people on it.
Yeah, Amit Kassar, he's got a great book too, so I'll connect you. He's an EOer as well. But he had talked about how the emergency loans sometimes, hopefully they're faster this time, but with Katrina, they took 4 or 5 before you kind of got some of the money. Now, I know friends who the SBA emergency loans literally saved their business during Katrina, so like definitely apply for them and stuff. But the 50, I think it's 503B or 504 or whatever, but it's the ones that it's like under $350,000. And you can actually apply for those every year. They're usually 10-year payback terms, low interest rates, so somewhere between 5 and 7 usually percent over 10 years. Those are, you can often turn around in about 30 to 35 days if you have all your paperwork ready. So it is another option that somebody could do that and then do the emergency loans, take the time of that, pay that off, and then you have your emergency loan. So there is some options there. So sometimes going to an SBA broker versus your bank. First of all, not all banks can do SBA loans. So sometimes it's better to talk to a broker who can find, like, I think we've done an SBA loan in the past, like and we did it with somebody in California because they understood agencies and service models versus asset-based businesses, right? So there's different banks that do different type of things. So sometimes going through a SBA broker can help you understand what you can do right now fast. But the emergency loans, I think you should definitely apply for and get going on that. Even if you don't end up saying no later, but just apply. That's probably not a bad thing. If you are in that need, by the way, if you have some cash flow and you're looking good and stuff, then like you don't have to apply to these things. But I know that there are some people who've reached out and saying, hey, we're really nervous about stuff. Can we, cut back on services? So this is for them. The other thing is QuickBooks and Xero, like those kind of things. I reached out to QuickBooks yesterday and just said, hey, I'm on a higher plan than I think I need to. Can I lower it down? While I was on the chat with them, they said, oh, sure. And oh, by the way, let me throw this 50% deal we have on for the next 3 months. So they also dropped it 50% off of what I had lowered it down to. So seems like people are actually being proactively helping if you just jump on the phone. So that was really nice to hear. And I think most people are on either QuickBooks or Xero or something. Maddy, you had asked, you said Bedlam?
Yeah, are you sort of like planning on addressing things differently at Bedlam as a result of COVID right now? Has the agenda sort of shift? And I think that you guys have moved it fully virtual. So any updates that you have there?
So yeah, the Bedlam conference is a very marketing focused conference. It's 5 agencies that all normally compete each other every other day that get together and we put on a conference. Last year and then this year it was going to be in Vegas, but now it's virtual. And we are doing some things that are specific to, maybe different messaging and stuff, things that we would say, like going really hard on this may not work in the next few months because as much as you want to like push out there and charge for your services and do that stuff, I still believe in a crisis situation, it's better to lead with education and then charge than to like really hit people over the head with some things. So we'll talk about some of those things there as well. But it's typically, the Bedlam conference is focused, it's very data oriented on here's things that are working right now. Here's some example case studies of, specific, their campaigns and stuff, things that we've seen not work, they used to work, and we talk about that, but it's very marketing focused. It's going to be April 1st through 3rd. It'll be virtual now. So instead of like, whatever, $1,000, I think now the ticket's like $200 or something. If anybody's interested in kind of honing their marketing over the next, having the time to hone their marketing over the next year. So it's a pretty good conference. Are you going to be able to attend virtually, Maddy? I know you were going to.
No, I'm closing on my house. So I'm still.
That's right.
Planning life as usual, I guess. So I probably won't be able to attend as a result of that. So yeah, it's an interesting time to be buying a house, and especially thinking about putting a house on the market this summer.
So we have some questions in here.
Yeah, I'm going to address Lindsay's question in just a moment. I just want to mention, so our Managing a Cash Crunch live stream is scheduled for March 31st at 1 p.m. I'm going to I'll talk to Mark, and I've got one of my staff members that's hitting every SBA contact we can find on LinkedIn to try to get somebody from the SBA to join us for that live stream. If anybody here has a contact at the SBA that can get us an in, I'd appreciate that. But I would love to have somebody on that live stream that can actually walk you through the step-by-step process of all of these things, disaster loans, regular loans, so I can get you more of that information. So if that's relevant to you, we have about a little over a week to pull that off. So just trust that we're going to get the right people on there for you. Make sure you sign up at profitwithlaw.com/COVID. That'll sign you up for all 10 of the live streams, but March 31st, 1 p.m. is the Managing a Cash Crunch live stream. Now, Lindsay was asking that if a firm is fine for now, they have a few months of leeway with their cash flow, and they have a business line of credit with their bank, should they still apply for the SBA disaster loan? And I'm going to tell you the answer is definitely yes. And here's why. First of all, we don't know how long this is going to last. So, and we don't know how long the effects of it are going to last. So we might be back in business 2 months from now, but you might not see your cash flow return to what you're used to for 6 months. We don't know. So because we have an unknown, you want to start the process today, especially, I mean, Mark makes a good point. It could take them 4 to 5 months to even approve that. So number one, you don't, because of the unknown, I definitely say yes. Number two, because this is such a good term loan, like it's 30 years, 3.25%, it's going to be better than what you have access to with your line of credit. It's going to be better than what you have access to with any other credit available to you, or practically any other credit available to you. And if it's there for the taking, it's there. Like, I don't think you need to feel bad that you're taking it away from somebody else. It's the federal government. That's what they're there for. They're there to support us. And if this is when you get that support, then you should take advantage of it. And the last thing is that line of credit can be closed at any time. You have a line of credit with the bank, but if the bank thinks for any reason that it's riskier than they initially thought, they can close it immediately. So don't assume that that line of credit is available to you unless you draw it and put it in another bank, like was said earlier. But they also, usually with bank line of credits, they have the right to call that at any time. And if they call it, you're going to be scrounging around to try to figure out how to come up with that money. So I would not rely on a line of credit as your only emergency fund. I would definitely take every, don't put your eggs in one basket. Take every option you have and just put them out there. Even to Mark's point, there's other SBA loans available. Apply for both because you never know what you're going to need and where your needs will be. You can always choose not to take it or to take it and then refinance something else that you have out there.
Or take it, let the money sit there, pay a little bit of interest for a few months, decide what you need to do, and you can, and well, all the other SBA loans, you can typically have no prepayment penalty. So I assume this one would be like that. I actually would have to get that answer, but
I'm sure there's no
I would
prepayment
expect
penalty.
no repayment penalty. Yeah. What was the question about I qualify from Karen, helping clients pay retainers up front?
Yeah, she wanted to know if there's any service that we know about that can help clients finance their retainers so that the attorney is not, the law firm is not left.
So that's why I was talking about Affirm. I'll type that in here.
Yeah, I would use caution about helping clients financially if you're not in a financial position to do that. So I think that you have to decide where you stand as a business owner to determine, what you can and can't do, because there's a reason why we take retainers up front. You don't want to be spending all your energy chasing after money, and if the person ends up not being able to pay, you're just going to be providing your services for free. Now, if you're in the position to do that, then you definitely can choose to do so. So I'm not in any way saying don't help people that are out there. But what I am saying is don't sign up for things that you're later going to regret because you're doing all this work and you're not getting paid for it.
Well, yeah, and you need to make sure that you can deliver those services as well. So if you're spacing out or signing on for delivering services over a period of time that feels, uneasy to you, that's something to consider as well.
All right, we've got plenty of people on here. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat. We'd love to speak to what's on your mind, not our assumption of what it is.
So some of the questions when I was on, again, that was like a few days into everything, but people were asking, from a marketing perspective, and I'll put my marketing hat on for a second. From at the Lawyers LabCon, some of the questions came up around, hey, if I have time to do content, is that a good thing to do right now? As I said earlier, I think leading with education right now, all the questions, Mike Whalen put in the chat, all the questions that you have, everybody else has right now. Think about all the questions you're getting and take the opportunity to write some post about it, record a video, do a Facebook Live, or just for your clients, you could do something like we're doing, like literally Maddy, myself, and Moshe texted around a couple, what's it, Thursday night, I think, or Wednesday night, we texted, said, hey, we should just do something.
Right.
Maybe people have a little more time on Saturday to kind of sit down and chat and just kind of catch up with everybody. Let's organize something where we can get questions from people and just let other lawyers help other lawyers, and we'll just be kind of facilitating. You could do that kind of stuff as well. So leading with education right now is a good opportunity to rally around the clients and prospects that already know you in your community, and then let them know, just like we did with Facebook, right? Like I reached out to my whole Facebook community, Moshe did, whatever, we shared it and said, share with a friend. And I mean, there's a lot of names on here that I don't recognize, so that's great,
well,
but these are good opportunities to.
We've been talking a lot about clients and about businesses and banks, right? But we haven't talked about referrals at all. And I think right now, yes, if you're putting out, a message to your clients or maybe prospects to rewarm them and sell something that is more package friendly and virtual for them right now, that's great. But one of the things you can also do if you're developing these assets, whether it's content or videos or educational resources and checklists that you're sharing, and I actually veer more towards the action-oriented content. So if you can create a checklist and really guide them through the how, what, how, when, why, then you have something for them to really use rather than as just a guide or reference point. But these can be assets that you share with your community partners who refer business to you so that they know, oh, I can get the word out on this firm's behalf. And that can be a way to sort of increase your network right now and to reach more of an audience that may need your services.
So Melissa asked about where to go find somebody to help with their website. Just a contract, webpage designer, somebody went off. I assume if you're using a platform like WordPress or something that anybody would have access to. Upwork is an okay tool. Moshe, you do a lot of virtual work with developers. Obviously, we have like people on staff, but we would not be like a one-off contract thing. So I think Upwork is a good resource.
Rytech might do it. Steve, hold on. It's sjr@rytechllc.com. He might do one-off web pages. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we're just not built to be able to do one-off things.
Now, you should know that there is software for that. So in other words, if you're just making a landing page for a specific offer that you have right now, you can
unbounce and things like that.
So the best one to use if you just want to get in, pay a small fee, and just have a tool that you can use is Lead Pages. Leadpages.net, I think it is. Let me double check that, but there's that, and there's ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is, you're going to go down
easy too.
Yeah, but you'll go down a rabbit hole with their marketing and end up spending a lot of money. Not that I have anything against Russell Brunson. I love the man, but let me just get this website. Yeah, it's leadpages.net. I have an affiliate code, but I don't remember what it is, so I'm just going to post this in there. Copy, paste. This is a very easy to use tool. You can take a template that already exists and just modify the wording on it. It won't be your website. So basically what you do is if you have a website and you want it to be branded to your website, that takes more work.
Under your domain is Unbounce. Yeah, and that's going to take you a day or so.
Lead Pages can do that also under your domain. So they have a WordPress plugin. So you can just install their WordPress plugin, and then you can create a link that goes to your web page, and it brings up that lead page, even though it's not on your website. So if you even know a little bit of your way around WordPress, that's an easy thing. If not, I'm sure on Upwork or Fiverr, any of these places, you could find somebody for $5 to $50 that will just do that piece for you. So definitely there's a way to throw up a quick landing page that, and if you want to sell something, you can create a Stripe account or tie it to PayPal, and you can
have all those plugins already.
You can do that. Yeah, you can do that all. It's really easy. Go on YouTube, watch a couple of videos and knock it out.
Yeah, Mark probably has a good tip here. I'm just going to say, from my experience, that this is not the time to get into a SEO tizzy. You can always later link this to your domain. If right now you need a page to link to for Facebook, use the tools that we're talking about. I know we do this all the time. To spin up something that links on your domain is just going to take a little bit more time. So if you have an existing relationship with a web marketing agency, or you need something done right away as a new page on your site, go to that resource. But if not, just get the page up and worry about, it being under your domain later. That's like a next week worry sort of thing,
Yeah, I agree with from the SEO perspective. People are asking about this. Well, what about this? I'm like, get the content out, get the information out. Where speed is of the essence right now. You can always go back and clean up, how things are linking to what and doing stuff. What your title tags are, which is crazy coming from me because I always say care about that stuff. But right now, focus on getting the content out there. I 100% second Maddy's thing of reaching out to your clients and telling them to hey, refer, get me to your friends and family who are having these concerns. So getting referrals right now. Yeah, everybody you can get to for referrals is a great opportunity right now. If you're leading with education, you have opportunities to, jump on video, watch my video, read my content. Everybody is getting a lot of emails about COVID right now, right? So I think opportunities like this, jump on Zoom, get on Facebook, interactions like this are great. Have a way to grab an email address of those people though. So if you're spin up a quick web page like we just talked about, grab an email address that goes into your whatever MailChimp or whatever tool you're using, or even just your CRM for now. You can always figure that out later too. But definitely grab an email address from any new people coming in. I'm sure, I assume when we set this landing page up, we probably had a way for you to put new information in your email address. So I'm sure we can follow up with emails.
One other thing that I'll say also, so for Facebook, one of the cool things that they're doing is they actually have lead forms, and you can collect a list of all the information that's in those lead forms. So you don't even have to have, like, if you have a good Facebook presence and you want to run ads against this, or you're sharing content, you can link it to those forms. Google Ads also has like a lead form sort of like plug into their ads. So you don't have to host those lead forms yourself if you don't want to. There are some companies that are doing very easy sort of within app lead generation where people can submit. Or what's really cool with Facebook is that it already has that information, so it pre-populates the form, and it makes it way faster for people to submit their information to you.
One other thing, I just was going through the notes. Somebody had pinged me directly. Cheryl mentioned talking to the CPA. This is not related to marketing, but just I want to make sure I get this out. Talking to CPA, because right now there's possibilities of doing tax deferments and paying less and pushing stuff off. So worth right now, because we are, I mean, right in paying tax bill time. In fact, a lot of us may have just done that, but then you got your personals coming up. So
that's been extended, by the way.
Yep.
Till July.
So definitely talk to your CPA if, like, you were down the path. They were very proactive in February and sent you all the stuff, and you're getting ready to pay a bunch of things. So talk to them.
And New York State just extended their own taxes to July. I don't know if every state has done it.
Yeah,
Karen just mentioned, I guess you could be a resource there.
Yeah, we got all of our S Corps and partnerships done because by March 15th, because they weren't extending. But most of those tax payments are pass-throughs, which means they go to the personal. So if you're an S Corp or a partnership, you likely haven't paid your taxes on your business yet, except for your estimated tax payments. So definitely check. If you're due a refund, don't delay. It's another source of cash. But if you owe money, you can file. If you're ready to file, you could file and then just schedule your payment for July. So definitely you can send that tax return out. But again, talk to your tax preparer, as Mark has said.
Awesome. We're coming up on the hour here, so I'm okay to stay for a little longer if people have questions.
Yeah, I'm good as well. While we're waiting to see if anybody else has any questions, just real quick, I want to give each of us a chance. So Mark, Maddy put this together. Mark and I decided
Mark and I just texted, so this is a group effort. Yeah. I don't get credit for that.
But we each have something for you that can help you today. So I just want to give us a chance to say that again. I know we mentioned it briefly, but Maddy has an offer for you from Smith AI that can really help you with handling the front lines of your firm. So she's going to share that with you. Mark has this free book offer, and I'm sure if you have an urgent marketing need, his team is working virtually and is able to help you with that. So I want to give each of them a floor to share what they have. We here at Profit with Law, we've typically been working with larger firms or firms that are willing to pay for a significant amount of help with a larger ticket coaching product. What we're doing right now is we're rolling out a very low cost membership that is geared to provide somebody who's in the 0 to 250K revenue range with the guidance that they need to grow their firm to the point where they can outsource these types of services and afford to outsource them. So what we did is I actually partnered with Mark, and there's a third person who we haven't finalized yet. So I'm not going to share who that is. But basically we created this partnership to deliver a membership where my focus is on the business side of the firm. Mark is obviously the marketing person, and the third person is teaching you all of the tech that your firm needs and how to get that. So that membership is brand new. There's nothing there yet. What we did was because we wanted to bring this to market now when everybody needs help, we're going to launch it with just live calls initially, and then that content will be built out over time. So you can join now for $27 a month. It's going to end up being $150 a month when it's complete. If you want to join right now, I'll drop the link into the chat. It's profitlesslaw.com/incubator. There's no sales page. There's no explanation of what it is. It's $27 a month. Join us, and you'll start joining these once a week calls where we're going to give you the support that you need. And it's an opportunity to join something before that price goes up. Only the first 30 people will be at $27 a month. We already have 10 in there. So we got 20 more slots at 27, and then it's going to be going up from there. So I'll drop that link in. Maddy, why don't you share what Smith AI is doing, and then we'll go to Mark.
Yeah, sure. So for people who don't know, Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for calls, chat, text, and Facebook Messenger, which we're launching hopefully this week. Facebook is buggy, so we're blaming them. So basically we do inbound and outbound calls. We can use your business number. We can answer calls on overflow or all calls or do transfers. And we work 7 days a week. We also have the website chat, which is a free AI chatbot, or also live staffed 24/7. So that can help really reduce the phone calls that are coming into your firm, and also make sure that people who are on your website are getting the resources and help and guidance that they need to the right, consultation calendars, and make sure that they're qualified for your practice area, and that they're well aligned with your firm, and also referred out to firms you recommend if they're not. So what we're offering is we already do a 20 call, 20 chat free trial. We've added on a free starter plan after the trial. So that's another 20 calls or chats. We do a free CRM integration. So if you're using Clio, Filevine, anything like that, those calls and chats will be logged in your system. The new content created. We also are doing a free white glove setup of the chatbot itself, which is normally $150 value. So all in all, that's about a $300 value that we're adding on. The code is Smith COVID-19. I put it in the chat earlier. I will also put it in the chat again. So we have English and Spanish speaking receptionists. We have English and Spanish instant translation on the chat side. And if there are other languages that you need support for, you can email us at hello@smith.ai or just chat with us live and submit that request, and we'll get back to you right away about our ability to handle those languages.
And personally, a big fan of Smith.ai. We implemented them in our agency, gosh, probably over a year now, I think. So we started off with just the calling, the kind of virtual receptionist stuff. My team was getting tired of answering calls from basically salespeople, right? Trying to, sell us whatever, get us to switch our internet provider or whatever. Yeah, and they literally just like block them, and then we actually integrated with our Slack. So now my team sees the calls that come through, all the all the information on Slack, even to the point of, hey, this call came from this client. We forwarded them to Chris. Just let you know. And we have a history of all the calls, which is awesome. But my team was like a month in, just said it was night and day, and was so thankful. So then we added the live chat, which we were using another service. We switched over because then we things that Maddy taught me. But she said, like the rules that we had set up for the calls was the same rules that the chat people use, right? So it makes sense to have that under one roof, and that's been awesome as well. And we're all pretty technical at our agency, right? We do a lot of development, a lot of work in code, but we're just busy. So we kind of never got around to kind of getting the live chat going. And she's like, hey, our team will do that for you. And I'm like, okay. And within a day and a half, it was done. So just a huge fan. And we're baiting the Facebook Messenger and stuff. So I'm excited for that, to be able to introduce that to our clients as well. So that's awesome.
I think also with the texting, like this is something that we see really often, guys, and I want to be, clear about this. If you're not getting business text, it's probably because your phone number is not enabled. Like we see a lot of firms getting texted the way that people are texting their plumber, their accountant, their mechanic. Like CVS text me, they're sort of expecting, just like they get a text with Uber, like things are on their phone, they're going to text you too. But those can be really annoying and intrusive messages, especially if it's your cell phone that you're using. So that's why we sort of respond to those. Another thing that I'll say for sort of continuity and streamlining workflow. So we recently just added this like text and email follow-up after calls. So let's say that we screen and schedule and sort of intake that new potential client, and they've booked a paid consultation or a 30-minute like flat rate, you know, fee session with you, right, where they're actually paying for that appointment. What you might want to do before that appointment happens is to not only have a calendar and might go out so they don't no-show and they know what to do, but also maybe there's a message that you want to send to them with like, here's how we work, or here's what we're going to go over in your session, or here's the paperwork to bring with you, or here are the things that you need so that we can do our job together, or so that we can have a productive conversation. That's something that we also now send up as a follow-up message. So if that's interesting to you, make sure that you're taking advantage of that. It's something that we're finding is really helpful, and just taking another task off your plate.
And then specifically to GNGF, so we're a marketing agency that only works with law firms. And there was a couple of clients that came on and talked that we were doing some stuff with. So I'm glad to hear that my team is kicking butt and their stuff's working great. But we tend to work on like kind of longer term arrangements. Our focus is on marketing. What's your marketing strategy? What are your business goals? And then how do we help you get there? Obviously, we reached out to everybody over the last week and say, is the marketing strategy still the same for the next 2 months? And talk through that with a lot of our clients. So proactively kind of got going on some of those conversations. And obviously Cheryl took advantage of some of that and made some quick changes, which is great. But that's how we work with our clients, is like more of a long-term marketing strategy. And then we do a lot of the execution digitally, and then can work with our offline firms as well. So like we have clients that do some radio, and we kind of like, you know, connect, make sure that all the messaging is the same and everything. So that's how we work. But we get pretty much all our clients through referrals or people who see us speak or bought our book. So that's, you won't see a lot of ads for us out there that much, but we do have a lot of information on our YouTube channel. So we've got a GNGF.tv. I can throw that in the chat too, but GNGF.tv. If you go there, you can get to either our Facebook or YouTube page for all of our, we do a lot of interviews, like Maddy's on an interview. Moshe, I think you did an interview with me as well. Thank you. Do a lot of interviews up there, also video content around, you know, kind of like, SEO versus SEM, but when you need to be doing, which are those kind of tools and all kinds of things. So we just updated some stuff. I think on Friday, we just dropped a whole bunch of stuff around going remote that we've been working with a lot of clients. And so we just said, hey, we're answering a lot of these questions and helping a lot of clients do this. So we just created a video of kind of some of the things we're doing and the tools to use and stuff. So feel free to check that out as well. We try to lead with education as much as we can. So, and I think more than ever in this kind of time. Somebody did ask a question, speaking of education. I want to make sure I get that. It was about Facebook, and where'd it go? Oh, sent privately to me. So to Mark and Maddy, can you elaborate a little more on how to create an ad on Facebook? For example, I made a video on intro to EP, now what? Or a checklist in order to collect emails. Can you talk about that if you have time? So when it comes to Facebook ads, they're actually, if you have the content already on Facebook, okay, it's not my dog.
Oh, that's mine. Sorry, I'll need to mute it.
Just like looking around, I'm like, where'd my dog go? But if you have already created content on Facebook, they will, a lot of times on your Facebook page, when you put stuff there, there's a quick way to kind of like start the ad process. That's kind of like the simple way. There's the whole Facebook ad business manager, which can get complex. And whenever it comes to spending money on platforms, I typically say be a little careful. But Facebook if you have your Facebook page, you just want to like kind of promote a post to more people and kind of do some basic demographics there. They do kind of walk you through that a little bit. But there is, you can put limits on how much you want to spend, which is good. So I always recommend, looking for that, how much you want to spend on this campaign. But I probably can create a, you know what I can do, Diana, is have one of my team members kind of walk through it and record a video if that would be helpful. And I could publish that on our YouTube page. That might be easier than me kind of trying to talk through it now that I'm listening to myself ramble a little bit.
Or Mark, we can
sense?
make that your first content call in the incubator.
Okay, we can do that. We could talk about it on the. I'll be on one or two of the panels next week. We can talk more about it as well. But and then you can reach out to me, Diana, mark@gnGF.com, and I make sure that I can get someone to show you how to do that. It's really not that hard. I just am thinking like without walking through it and having an example to show you, it might be confusing.
Yeah, and I think that you need to be really careful in understanding that the steps to create the ad and put it out there is easy. Anybody can do that. You can follow the steps. But there's a lot that happens that is not obvious on the surface that you're not going to, without the knowledge and understanding of how the platform works, you're not going to be very effective with your ads. There's targeting is who are you showing the ad to? You have to make sure that your targeting is on point with getting to the right audience. You need to understand what the metrics are telling you so that you can see whether an ad is being effective or not. So setting it up is step one, but really understanding the ad platform is a whole nother ballgame. So I would just use caution and not be very aggressive with your spend when you're first starting. As you learn, kind of just treat it like you're spending money on the university process, the education process of it, as opposed to actually trying to bring in business from it, so that you can get to learn the platform and learn how it works.
Yeah, I mean, Cheryl mentioned this earlier when she jumped on. I mean, so it's like they run some ads, but they also run it to, things, either grab email addresses or, special promotions and stuff. So you have to have that back end understood and thought through a little bit. That being said, if you're just right now focusing on kind of getting your brand and getting some message out there, it doesn't hurt to kind of promote that while you're starting to figure out that back end. So, I don't want somebody to freeze on creating content because they don't have that figured out. So as Maddy mentioned earlier, get some stuff out there. We can clean up the back end over the next, few weeks, but don't let not having that all figured out slow you down on recording videos, getting Zoom, meetings kind of going with your peers and referral partners.
And I would say also
like
with like videos, if you have the ability to just record some videos that basically allow you to have small little subjects and sort of snack size, what you can do is test. So if you are promoting those videos with the same budget every time to the same sort of audience and see what traction they get, then maybe you do deeper on that. Maybe that's what you advertise and you put your money towards building out more, because what you don't want to do is build a ton of things and then not know their value to your firm. So if you have the sort of like shorter snack size things, the testing place, then you know what to invest more in with a little bit more, security.
All right, do we have any other questions coming in? I'm trying to think if there was any points that I specifically wanted to cover that I should bring up. We talked about the SBA loan. We talked about cutting your costs. We talked about what to do with employees. We talked about increasing your revenue, looking for opportunities. There's a lot of issues that you're probably dealing with, like stress management, how to deal with, if you have kids at home, how to deal with the kids being home and keeping things going there. There's a ton of different things. And if you look in the chat, just go back a little bit, I posted the list of topics that we're going to have in those live streams. We can definitely talk about some of it. I mean, I can tell you here, I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm like 85% daycare provider right now and 15% business owner. And most of my work is happening from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So I get it. I'm with you on that. I can tell you what works for us. Monday was absolutely bonkers. The kids were just totally out of control, and we realized that they needed a schedule. So my wife and I, every night, we map out a schedule for them for the entire next day. Now I have an assistant in the Philippines, so I send it to her. She makes it pretty for them, but you don't have to do that. If you look at my Facebook personal feed, you'll see I posted them. Yeah. So my son literally, he's running to the fridge. Okay, what's next? Last night he was doing an audit before he was going to bed. Oh my goodness, we didn't do playtime. I need to do playtime. So it's really cool to see him totally engaged with that schedule, but it also gives structure to the day. It allows us to prevent screen time, basically from when, that schedule starts until right before dinner. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm not worrying about education. I'm just concerned about keeping them active, busy, trying to get outside for walks. I put the bounce house in the living room. I mean, I'm just trying to find ways for them to expend energy, have a good time, and not focus on the fact that they're not in school and they're not seeing their friends. And that's what's been primarily working for us. So if that helps any of you, that's great. If you have any questions about any of that stuff, the floor is open now. I guess we're going to have to end this at some point if there's no other questions, but we all have experience in these different areas. The stress is real. We all have it. As far as that, I'm just choosing not to focus on any of it. Don't focus on any of the negative stuff, and just focus on the potential, the positive. I am so thankful for the opportunity that I have to bond with my kids the way that I've been doing in the last week. We never have them around all day long, and it's an opportunity that it's not coming again. As far as we know, we've done, we've spent time on the weekends, but it's really been fun to be involved with them throughout the day. So I'm focusing on that positive stuff. When it comes to the business, I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking for ways to serve my community, which is you guys, and to put things out there and put offers out there. I'm not afraid to put out a membership offer, because it's going to help you. And if that's the start of something that's going to be a recurring revenue stream for our business and for Marks, and then we're doing two things at the same time. We're serving you, and we're also creating that revenue for the business. And you should do the same. Find ways to serve your clients, find ways to put yourself out there, and to also generate revenue in the process.
One thing that I'll also say just is that, if you are not comfortable with or have questions about managing teams who are working now virtually, you are more than welcome to get in touch with me. Obviously, Moshe has experience here too. Look, Smith AI runs virtually, 7 days a week, every day of the year, every year. So if it's out of your comfort zone, or you just have business management questions, or how do I make sure that my staff is doing what they say they're going to do? I personally have done this, not just at Smith AI, but in other companies, and I would be happy to get on the phone with you and talk through some of those things, because there are things that you can do that are not sort of going to annoy your staff, but equip them to be successful, and for you to be a successful manager if you haven't managed remotely before. And maybe somehow, Moshe, we can weave that into the sessions this week. But I think that's something that's really important here, to make sure that business runs smoothly, not just on the client side and on the revenue side, but also operationally.
Yeah, so we have
on Teams and stuff. Yeah.
The first topic Monday is serving clients while social distancing. So that's going to be all about working remotely, running a virtual practice. We're going to, that's going to be, on that. And then we actually have 7 panelists on that. So there's no shortage of talent on Monday's live stream. So definitely sign up for that, profitwithlaw.com/COVID. Let's see, what else do we have? Employees, how to keep them. That's about figuring out whether or not to keep your staff, and then strategies that you can use to keep them. Let's see.
So Moshe, Cheryl was saying for a special session on managing remotely. So maybe you and I can sync on that. I'm sure that we can weave that into something.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple things that would cover both of those, or a lot of those things. So like the one on I don't think the time worked for me, but the one on employees and running virtual and stuff, I know if it does work, I'll get on that one too, because we've always kind of been virtually minded, but we have an office, but the idea is that people can work flexibly whenever, and so we've kind of built those tools. But it's also, now everybody's out, what are the little things you can do to kind of keep the community? So we're still trying to have we have usually a lunch in the office 1 day a week, and so we're trying to do that virtually this coming week. We created a hashtag fun Slack channel, just people putting in jokes and stuff to try to stay lighthearted and stuff. I also, as a business owner, something for your staff, just a little one-off thing, an idea to kind of help support, the restaurants and local businesses and drivers and stuff like that. I told my team, it's hey, a lot of my team has corporate cards for travel and stuff. So I said, hey, use your card, buy lunch 3 times this week from a local business, not a chain, but a local business that may be struggling, and get the drivers. And one, they got to kind of have lunch taken care of, and when they had kids and whatever else going on, but also, we're kind of, they like the fact that we were giving back to the community a little bit too. So there's things you can kind of wrap a lot of stuff together to kind of keep that community going. But those are the kind of things I'm excited to see talked about as well, and not just the how to go tech remote, but how to just keep the team feeling and moving forward. You'll probably be surprised that the productivity will go up a little bit, even though maybe people are struggling with hours. Because when you're heads down and quiet, and the edges bleed on your day when you work from home a lot, it'll be interesting to see if you notice that as well.
Yeah, so I do think, just for Cheryl, come to those other live sessions, and And in there, if we didn't address to the level that you felt that you needed, let us know in the chats or message us privately. Let us know where the gaps are, because we want to help you solve that problem. I think that come and interact with those 2 sessions, and I think that you'll get the answers that you need from us. There's only so much we can share in a few minutes. It's a whole hour dedicated on that topic. And there's other opinions there too, right? We have panelists that are coming in who are going to share maybe new experiences or things that we haven't thought about. I run a complete, well, I'm not going to say a completely virtual team. I have my office is in my home, and I have one employee here in the office, and I plan on expanding that. Happens to be my daughter, but she is an employee, and she's very much engaged. She has her own office, and it's not like, oh, I just threw her in there. But there's I have 2 employees in the Philippines, and they work at the opposite end of the day. So I need to be super organized about making sure that they know what they need to do, that they have their marching orders. And anybody who's worked with me with putting the summit together, with putting these things together, I mean, they're rock stars, right? We threw together a gorgeous video. She did, Tina, my assistant in the Philippines, put that video together, highlighting the upcoming live streams. The landing page for this COVID over coffee. I mean, I just hit play, and they knock out and they do it. How did I get there? We have Slack where we message each other, and we're in real time. So I'm able to see if they're struggling or they need to send me a message. When I wake up in the morning, those messages are there. I'm not trying to filter through 200 emails first thing in the morning to see how my team did. I have each of my team members. And you might consider this micromanaging, but I don't. I make it very clear to them that the purpose of this is just so that I have a pulse on what's been done. Every day, every one of my team members writes a very short, brief summary of this is what I did today. And this way I'm able to know, I knew when I woke up Friday morning, the graphics I needed for my Facebook ads were not done because it wasn't on the list, right? But I knew that my video was done. So I knew that I at least had something I can use to put into Facebook ads. They're not going to be back till Sunday night, and I'm going to wait to kick off those ads for till Monday or Tuesday. I'm not.
So with my team every morning at 9 a.m. or when they start, they post in the Scrum channel what they're working on right now and what they're working on next, and that's sort of their daily agenda. If they have calls, if they have to-dos, and it's really easy for me as a manager to say I need you to focus on this in addition or this first, or make sure that you get this done today. And if I don't see it on that list, it's easy for me to identify where there was a communication gap or something that's urgent that they're not necessarily going to get to today. So it helps prioritize your team and make sure that people are in sync. Also, if you have teams, you can do different things. It's great to have select channels where maybe someone is working on one project, but there's a backup for them if they're busier than normal today. You can sort of reassign and have that transparency there.
Yeah, totally. And then go ahead, Mark.
I need to jump off soon, but I wanted to leave it with this kind of finding community like this, whether it's online with your team on a Slack or some kind of tool. Finding other people who are kind of facing this. I think self-selecting into these type of groups is going to, one, help reduce some of the stress and fear and worry, but also start giving ideas for, we heard Stephen and Morris and other people talk about, in 2 or 3 months, setting yourself up for being better off and being stronger, having your brand and your name and your messaging out there even more over the next few months is going to set you up to be much stronger. So continue to look for groups like this. I think that, I personally, as an entrepreneur, have some other entrepreneur groups that I'm following and part of. And so I'm getting access to webinars like the one I mentioned earlier on the SBA loan stuff from somebody, those kind of things I'm looking for. You can't spend all your day doing that, but selectively coming in. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this on a weekend is hey, maybe this is a good opportunity to kind of take a break and think about these things, but looking for these groups, if it's a community in your town, of lawyers that you typically get together with, try to host your own little Zoom thing, just keeping in touch with people and looking to the future, and not, we talked about a lot of stuff in the first 10 minutes of stuff you can do, in 3 or 4 days to kind of feel better on the cash side. But looking to the future is going to, I think, help us be more positive through this over the next few days. But I have to take off soon. So Moshe and
Thank you,
Maddy,
Mark.
thanks for
Yeah, thanks so much.
for
Thank you all
organizing
for
this,
joining
and
us.
thanks everybody for coming. That was so awesome. I was wondering if it was going to be the three of us just talking over coffee, but you know, we had like 50 something people on, so it was great.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to address just a question that came up and also just make the point. Zoom video conferencing, it doesn't need to be this platform. There's a bunch of platforms out there, but Zoom works really, really well. I talk face-to-face with my staff in the Philippines. They're on the freaking other side of the world. And we, you know, at 8 o'clock at night is 9 o'clock in the morning for them, or now it's actually with the time change. Now it's 9 at night for me is 9 a.m. for them. It's a 12-hour flip. And I literally get on Zoom and talk to them whenever there's something that I want to, you know, I want to see their face, I want to share a screen with them. But you can have meetings like you normally would have, just invite everybody to attend in Zoom. Tell them that, look, this is a regular business meeting. You're not in pajamas, you're not in your bed, you're showing up in front of the computer with your camera on. We want to see each other. And especially in this day of social distancing, I mean, that's why we did this not as a webinar, but as a call, because we wanted everyone who wanted to see other people to be able to turn their camera on, and you can literally see each other, because it's lonely, you know, being on your own little island. And so we want to keep that in mind when working with your team. Is they're going to miss what they have in the office. So try to create that for them with, you know, more meetings on Zoom, maybe even a meeting just for fun, just for the water cooler chat, so that they're, you know, they can shoot the breeze and talk to each other about what's up and what's going on, and maybe have that, allow them to do that without management being there if they want to be able to just, you know, have a good time. So just think about how you can use video conferencing to overcome some of that social distancing that's happening with your team.
Well, wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Oh yeah, Mark does have a book.
I'm gonna go back in the chat and find it.
No, you can visit gngf.com, and I think the book is
I think
there.
it was /free-book, gngf.com/free-book, and then just choose other for where you heard about the book. And I'm going back in the chat to make sure, but I think that's
it's that, right? I think I just posted it. And then there should be a drop down option where you select how you heard about it, and you can just select other or whatever he said. I think there's not an option for this particular call yet.
Yeah. All right. So I think it's a good place for us to end it. Maddy, any parting thoughts?
No, I just appreciate you hosting, Moshe, and you know, we're all looking forward to the sessions next week. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do. We put our LinkedIn profiles in here and our emails, and just look forward to connecting with you all. If we can help with any specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, and Maddy was kind enough to help me get Smith AI to be one of the sponsors for those calls. So you're going to hear about Smith AI on each of them. We appreciate the partnership that we have together, and I'm really looking forward to you taking them for a spin. I think that if you're not already using Smith, there's going to be an offer, out there. I don't know if it's the same offer that you put out today, but basically where it's almost risk-free for the first 2 months, right? Everything is free. You just, take it for a whirl. You don't have to worry about the cash flow right now because you're not paying until those 2 months are up, but get the experience of using them.
I mean, exactly. There's a lot that we can do inbound and outbound. So just give it a try, get creative with it. We want to work with you. It's completely custom.
Yeah, and I've heard only good things about Smith AI, and I think that every firm should have it. There's a lot of reasons for it. Even if you're able to answer the phone, what if the person on the phone? What if the person answering the phone's already on the phone? What if it's after hours?
There's so many better things to do, right? Totally.
There's so many variables that that would allow you to just do better with what you're already doing, even if you already have somebody in that seat at the front line.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to be conservative with your resources right now. It's super important that your time is really spent on the most valuable things, especially with kids at home and around. Yeah, exactly. Being able to just
Yeah.
pick up the phone is not so easy anymore. So yeah, thanks so much, Moshe. And, you know, again, just reach out if there's anything that we can do to help you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, everybody, be safe. First of all, be safe. And we really hope that you could join us, profitwithlaw.com/COVID on our series of live streams. You know how to reach out to us on social. If you have any questions, any concerns, just hit us up. Go to Mark, Maddy, myself. You know, we're here for you, and anything we can do to help you, let us know what that is, and we'll see if we can try to give you direct feedback or send you to the right resource.
Awesome. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Hey, what's up? I'm Josh. Thanks so much for joining us. If you feel like you learned something today, think of how beneficial it would be to chat with myself or another one of our marketing consultants one-on-one. Go ahead and visit our website to schedule your free consultation. It only takes a minute.